Development Department at Patty Americas. I wanted to give a short review of how to teach prescriptively using quick reviews. And so over the years, anyone that's gone through a fairly recent IDC or IE will be very familiar with using prescriptive lesson guides as the primary form of outline when reviewing missed questions from a course. The thing with those questions is that they come from knowledge review questions or maybe final exams, and that's what the prescriptive lesson guides are based on. With most students nowadays around the world learning the student material using e-learning, the knowledge review and the final exam, they're incorporated into the e-learning. So there's no need for an instructor to review those questions because they simply wouldn't. The questions that an instructor would review with students come from the quick reviews that they give to that student once the e-learning is done. And so for these quick reviews, there aren't any prescriptive lesson guides that kind of specifically address the questions that are on the quick reviews. There might be safety concepts on some of the lesson guides like rescue dive or open water that could be used to enhance the information when you're reviewing it with a quick review, but it's not necessary. It becomes a little bit complicated. So what I wanted to do here is show how I can prescriptively teach and give a role model knowledge development presentation using a question from a quick review. And specifically, what I want to do here in this short presentation is review the evaluation criteria. And this is really focusing on the training aid part where we have that point for lesson guides or another form of outline. So that's really the main point of this. So I'll do that, and then I'm going to give a sample presentation. So make sure you have an evaluation form to hand so that you can barbecue me when I give this presentation. And then we'll have a short discussion, or I will have a short discussion on the score for the presentation that I give. And also at that point, I'll go through a couple of different ways I could have earned that outline point to begin with. So with that, let's take a look at the evaluation criteria review. So nothing changes here. You still use the same knowledge development evaluation form that we use for everything knowledge development presentation-wise. And that is going to remain exactly the same. It's used in the same manner. Nothing changes in the introduction. Nothing changes in the body part of the presentation. The summary is all the same criteria, but really it's this category here where some people might be a little bit unfamiliar because you're expecting to see either the lesson guides themselves being used or another form of outline, as in the full instructor outline, like from a specialty or something like that. But ultimately, that is outline doesn't mean instructor outline in that. So what I'd like you to do, or what I would like to do, is remind you of the information that your candidates in the IDC already have. And within this document called Guidelines for Preparing Teaching Presentations, we really address this concept of an outline. And so when I open that file up, it looks like this. And this is located in the Instructor Candidate Digital Crew Pack. So if you go to your candidate's digital crew pack, and then here under IDC resources, that's where you're going to find this document or this set of guidelines, and it's a PDF, as I mentioned. And in here, I'll just do a quick search for outline, and now it's going to take me to where it talks about outline, and it happens right away, right here in the knowledge development teaching presentation, step 1. And so it says to the candidate, if lesson guides are not available, create an outline to use as a visual aid. And so this is really that definition, is that it's something that we display for the students to follow along with. And so it can be anything. Of course, it lends itself really well to lesson guides, but if they're not available, we still want to present something that the students can kind of follow along and keep track of the scope or the context of the presentation. So it can really be almost anything in there. So use that information, because that's something that your candidates are familiar with. What I'm going to do now is give a sample presentation. And in this example presentation, I'm initially going to use the quick review itself as an outline to give that as an example. And then once I'm done with the sample presentation, I'll talk about maybe some other ways I could have done it. Sometimes it's going to depend on the topic, but let's see where this goes. So I'm going to give a sample presentation from the Open Water Diver course, and it's quick review number 17 that deals with computers. So I'm going to find that quick review, bring it up here, and yeah, feel free to score or follow along as you like. All right. So welcome to the classroom. Thanks everyone for doing the quick review. As you know, my name is Eric, and I'm going to review the question here. Everyone did a good job, but for some reason, there was one question that several of you struggled with, and that was this question 17. And so by the end of my presentation here, you're going to be able to answer this question. So the first step in using the Dive computer is what? You're going to be able to identify that answer. And so this is very similar to things that you do in everyday life in general. So for example, if you go to a restaurant you've never been to before, first time in there, you come in, typically, what would you do? Right, you're not going to immediately start blurting out dishes or types of food. You're probably going to look for that menu that's probably on the table or handed to you, and then you look at that menu, and from there you can make a plan of attack for your meal, and you can pick a starter or a main course, whatever, and now you know what that restaurant serves. So similarly, when we use any kind of device, whether it's a new computer, Dive computer, or otherwise, we follow that same setup. We kind of read the menu, we read the instructions. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk about how important that first step is. And when I do that, when I have this discussion with you, we're going to find out why these other answers that are here are incorrect and why that first step is going to be that reading the instructions. And this is important because you're going to be using a computer. We're providing a rental one for you during your course here. And so in Confined Water 5 is the first time you'll use it, and then in the Open Water Dive as well. So as I go through this presentation, keep that in mind, ask questions, etc. And then please also open up your e-learning to section 4. So this one here. And in fact, you can even open up to the subheading of using Dive computers and the table. So as I mentioned, when we go through the course here, you're going to be using a computer in Confined Water Dive 5, and you're going to be using that computer also during the Open Water Dive. So during Confined Water 5, there's a mini dive, and in there, I want you to use that computer, kind of get to know it. But before you show up, I want you to read the manufacturer's instructions. So I'm going to have emailed you the instructions for the computers we're using, which is the Teoric. And so you can see here that even within here, it says we should read this manual first. And I'd like to remind you that within the e-learning, in this section here called Planning Dives with Your Computer, it states it pretty clearly. So as I scroll through that e-learning, you can see right here, it's one of the objective questions. What's the first step? And that's where I can see that the very first step is to read the computer manual. And that's actually further reinforced even in the video clip. If you watch that with the closed caption here, you can see that the very first statement is read the manual, right? And that's what I was saying before. Same thing when you come into a restaurant, you're going to read the menu before you start doing and ordering anything. Because when you do read that computer manual, you're going to see that that is going to walk you through those first steps of setting time and date and changing any settings. And that's really important for us because we want to set the correct time and date, and we only do that after we read the manufacturer instructions. And then after we do that initial step, we're going to find how to change the settings. And this becomes really important because Confined Water 5 is obviously in the pool, but our open water dives take place in the ocean. So we do need to change that setting. And so that follows reading the manufacturer's instructions. These computers that we're providing to you during the course, the Teorics, they're pretty cool. They're nice and compact. They kind of work as a watch as well. and they have a super bright display, and you can customize the color in there, and they do a lot more than recreational diving as well. So you might be interested in buying your own following the course, and you're more than welcome to do that. We have a special going on, and this is great for your long diving life because it covers recreational diving as well as technical diving and free diving. So you can see we've got 88 pages of instructions in here. So a lot of cool things that you can do with this computer. So with that, you should now be able to answer this question, that the first step in using a dive computer is to read the manufacturer's instructions. And as I talked about, we can see that that is indeed the correct answer, because I also talked about the fact that setting the time and date and changing the settings follows that. So we discussed those things. Remember, you're using that computer already on dive 5 in the pool and then an open water section. And if you have an interest, come see me about buying your own computer as well. So thank you very much. So that was the presentation. So then if you want to, we can review the scores, right? So if you have your evaluation form or not, you can kind of do it from memory as well. But basically, for the presentation here, we had a contact statement, which in my case was the restaurant and reading a menu first of all. I discussed what I'm going to be talking about and explaining why certain answers are wrong and incorrect and which one's going to be the correct one there. I had a conduct with taking notes, ask question, open e-learning, and then I reinforced that value in the current course, specifically Confined Water 5 and the open water dives. No effective interaction because I'm here on my own. Plus, I did ask a question, but I didn't wait for anyone to answer, even the voices inside my head. So here, this would be a 4. I did state the objective, which is to answer that particular question. I felt I stayed within the scope. I didn't have any course activities in the local environment beyond saying that we're going to go from the pool to the ocean and that the ocean's salty, but that's all we know. So that's not enough really to earn this point in here. And again, no interactions either. So that means that I'm scoring 1 and 2. So I have 2 of the above, so it becomes a 3 in this category. Sequence. I thought I followed the sequence. Important relationships of other components, Confined Water 5, the mini dive and the open water dives and so on. So that counts there. No continuing education or environmental activities. I did promote people to buy their own computer with some things on, why the computer is cool. So that means I've got that and I've got this. So that's 2 of the above equals a 4. And in the summary, I reinforced the fact we're going to go to Confined Water 5 and open water dives. I reviewed what I talked about, those different, wrong answers or how the answers flow within the answer options in there. Restated the objective to answer the question. No Con Ed again, no environmental activities. Promoted the computer again, so a 4. And then we come into training aids. So here, I don't have lesson guides, but you saw how I used the quick review as an outline in this case, right? I began up here in the non-answered section, and I kind of walked through this, and then I went over to a couple of other training aids, and I came back to the quick review and used that as the main kind of focal point of the presentation, finishing off with a review of the correct answer at the end as well. So if I wanted to, I could have immediately gone to the e-learning, for example, and in this case, the e-learning could have been my outline. I could have opened up the page here and said, one of the questions you missed related to how to plan dives, and this is the question we're going to answer relates to this objective, and I could have gone through the steps here and worked through it, maybe again showing the video. So I could have used this as an outline. There may even have been an opportunity for me to use a whiteboard and put some bullet points out. But in this case, I felt that the quick review is going to be the best outline for people to follow. So that's why I used it. Digital tool, I had the e-learning. Dive equipment had the computer, non-diving training aid, the computer instructions. And if I say so myself, I felt quite fluid in there. A couple of ums here and there, but that's not too bad for an IDC candidate. So I've got full points here. So again, focusing on this outline point, which is the goal here, hopefully that kind of demystifies it and shows that it's not really different from anything you've been doing before, whether it's lesson guides or using outlines. Again, remember that guidelines for preparing teaching presentations specifically kind of defines this form of outline as that visual aid for the students to follow. So that can be the quick review, it could be e-learning maybe, or it could be some notes on a whiteboard, provided they're kind of unique points on there, something that's not shown something else, somewhere else. So with that, hopefully that's clarified that with a quick review of the evaluation criteria, the little sample presentation and discussion. But if something's still not clear, don't hesitate to reach out to your instructor development department. Thank you very much.